Nick, here's another for you.
Oh, yes, OK. This is a clip from George Méliès's Voyage to the Moon. That's a nuclear explosion. There was some story this week about, was it during the Cold War, the Americans were debating about whether they should blow up the moon with nuclear weapons. I didn't quite see what they thought the point of that would be.
It's because Hans Blix had told them that the clangers had weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, the little boy was the bomb they dropped on Hiroshima, so they were looking at something a lot bigger. It was called a fat man. Would you like to see a picture of a fat man?
Yeah.
See? This is the actual bomb. You thought we were going to show you something like this. No.
It's Eric Pickles. He's a member of the cabinet. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes, I certainly have, but I didn't realise he was that large.
What was the reason why they wanted to do this?
It was like, I think it was sort of posturing, because the Russians had launched Sputnik, so they wanted to make a statement and surprise the Russians by blowing up the moon. Yeah, nothing happened.
Sanity prevailed.
Yeah, because there were doubts over what effect a moon blast could have on Earth, including tidal patterns. Talking of which, floods in this country have now got serious because a celebrity has been affected. Which celebrity?
What's the initials?
PD.
Is it P. Diddy?
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels!
He lives by the River Thames.
Correct.
He lives on a little island.
Yeah.
Yes. Paul Daniels said this week that he was furious with the council and that his house was currently under about 2 foot of flooding.
He's been flooded every year for years, and he keeps moaning about it. Get a sandbag, for God's sake.
Weird, is it, if you live next to the Thames and then complain about flooding?
In the Thames.
It's like moving in next door to Ryan Giggs and then complaining when he bangs your wife. Like... You surely knew when you moved into the area. This is America's plan in the 1950s to blow up the moon. The plan to fire a nuclear missile at the moon was codenamed Project A119, although its purpose was later downgraded to finding a way of connecting Hartford and Stevenage. That is the actual road. Meanwhile, on Earth, the UK was again hit by widespread flooding. One of the people affected was magician Paul Daniels. He was stranded in his house. The emergency services said despite frantic efforts, they were running out of excuses not to rescue him.
Cooperated with the FIFA inquiry?
The English?
Yes, no one except the English and the Australians, and definitely not the Russians or the Qataris.
We never get it, do we? We're conducting... Oh, yes, we'll help. You're guilty.
But why... I mean, why would anyone believe the Russians could be corrupt? But why didn't they cooperate with the FIFA inquiry?
Because they destroyed all their records by accident. Yes. As you do when someone says, I'm conducting an investigation.
It was simply that the Russians were unable to provide more than a few documents from the bidding process because the computers they used during their bid had been leased, they were returned and subsequently destroyed by their original owners.
We must bid for the World Cup. First, we must rent some computers.
Qatari Mohammed bin Hammam undoubtedly paid money to a delegate from Tahiti specifically to vote for the Qatari bid, but why have FIFA dismissed this as irrelevant?
But they said he wasn't acting on behalf of the Qataris. Despite being Qatari and described by the Qataris as their greatest asset in our bid for the World Cup, he was not acting for them. Thank goodness FIFA sorted that one out.
But in this instance, they know he paid money to a delegate to vote for the Qatari bid, so that it's definitely to do with the Qatari bid, but they dismissed it as irrelevant because they said this was only one vote out of the 13 required and therefore could not have been significant. If the ballot papers of 1/13 of the British electorate were forged, that wouldn't be relevant because it couldn't affect the result.
No.
I mean, it's not funny, but these people are arseholes. What, according to the FIFA report, did the English bidding team do that was so worthy of condemnation?
They organised a gala dinner for Warner and generally sucked up to him.
It's almost sweet, our pathetic attempts to bribe them. We sponsored a dinner for Caribbean football to the tune of £30,000 and found a part-time job for a friend of Jack Warner. That's the Jack Warner that the Qataris paid over $1 million to. I think they got a signed copy of your book as well. Did you see the exchange of emails between some of bin Hammam's staff as the allegations of corruption first surfaced?
No.
Well, they appeared in the Sunday Times. It starts, I need you to start shredding his correspondence. So soon? Yes, start from now. There are 3 years of filing to be shredded. Just do it discreetly, OK? What about the request from the Russians to shred?
Well, the post office story is about miscarriage. 900 people denied justice and persecuted for decades and not given any compensation, and now they're finally saying, oh, those people, yes, we knew they were innocent, we just prosecuted them anyway. And the odd one out is that's an absolute national disgrace, and I don't care much about that. Anyway,
Are you going to pick an odd one out, or...?
Yes. The Winslow boy.
Yes.
And that was a miscarriage of justice.
Stealing a postal order.
Exactly.
Which he didn't do.
He didn't, but he was smoking, so he should have been shot.
Yeah.
Any guesses for what the odd one out is?
Yes, the aeroplane, the journalists, because they did it. They nicked stuff off the plane.
They have all been wrongly accused of stealing, apart from journalists on board Air Force One who have been asked to return stolen items. So before the Post Office inquiry resumed this week, what was the new evidence, Ian?
ITV had a tape, people saying we had told Paula Venables that Horizon could remotely access and fiddle their accounts. There was that, and then there was further evidence in the inquiry this week, and it is sort of getting there. It literally is everything that anyone has ever said for 2 decades is absolutely true.
I was pleased to see that the BBC did give Private Eye a mention, because Private Eye did play a large part in writing about this story for 20-odd years. That's not enough reason to buy it, but, you know.
His resignation attracted the usual bunch of renter quotes. What we've seen is a Prime Minister who clearly is totally disconnected with how the voters in Britain feel about MPs' expenses. That was Nigel Farage. The same Nigel Farage who in 2009 revealed that as an MEP he'd claimed in expenses £2 million of taxpayers' money.
And who was it? Who was it that brought up the issue of £2 million and me and taxpayers' money? Dennis McShane.
Yeah, he's in jail, but you're not.
Yes, I had noticed that.
Good.
Yes, well, as a tax-funded MEP, Nigel Farage is an equal opportunities employer. Some of our money has gone to his wife and some to his mistress. Or have I got that wrong?
That is allegedly, don't you? I think that is allegedly.
We can set the record straight right now.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you ought to say allegedly, quite honestly.
Can I say, as a member of the press, I think, you know, actors really are in need of a royal charter. I mean, that sort of allegation is pretty distressing. What, is it true?
No, afraid not.
Not true at all?
Not true at all.
Any of the good bits?
There are good bits.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Right.
Well, let's have a look, shall we, at some of those revelations. Here is Nikki Sinclair, a former UKIP MEP, now representing the We Demand a Referendum party in the European Parliament. Take a close look at the reaction of the translator in the bottom left corner of the screen.
Does Mr Farage think it's a fair use of taxpayers' money, namely his secretarial allowance, not only to employ his wife Kirsten, but his former mistress Annabel Fuller? Is this a responsible use of taxpayers' money, Mr Farage?
Well, I would just say this to you, Chairman. This is somebody who hid under the cloak of parliamentary privilege to make those comments, and when asked to repeat them publicly, refused to do so.
Quite funny, though.
David Cameron was very rude about your people, wasn't he, Nigel?
Oh, he always is.
Yes, he said...
He can't help himself.
He can't help himself. He said
No,
they were all
fruitcakes
fruitcakes and loonies.
And loonies, and
Yes.
worse. He said worse than that.
He did, right.
Extremists.
Extremists?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time... I think it's time for a game of Fruitcake or Looney. OK, everyone, fingers on your buzzers. I'll show you some UKIP party members. You have to buzz in and tell me whether they're a fruitcake or a loony. Here's the first one. Ian.
I'm just guessing.
Yep.
Fruitcake.
I'm afraid that's the wrong answer. He's a loony. He's a would-be UKIP councillor and loony John Sullivan who wrote, "Regular physical exercise releases boys' tensions and thus avoided homosexuality." Which is quite right, Mr Sullivan, and that's why you'll never see a gay man down the gym. Fingers on buzzers, here's your next one. Nigel Farage, UKIP party.
This is a bit tricky, this one, because he's the treasurer and one of our biggest donors. And I wouldn't really like to call Stuart Wheeler either. I'll have to go for Fruitcake.
Is the correct answer. You got it right. Yes. This is UKIP party treasurer Stuart Wheeler and Fruitcake, who said that women had no place in the boardroom and couldn't compete with men at sports, even when they're not physically disadvantaged. He said, chess, bridge, poker, women come absolutely nowhere. I think that just has to be borne in mind. Final go, Fruitcake or loony?
I don't know the chat.
No, anyone?
I'm going to go for loony.
It's the wrong answer. It's actually a trick question. He's not a fruitcake nor a loony. He's a closet racist. At a public meeting about travellers, he said, "The Romanians, they'll stick a knife in you as soon as look at you." His name is Rob Fraser.
Well, thanks for telling me.
Well, there you go. UKIP supporter.
Nice chap, buys his round.
What are Nuttall's plans?
To hold the government to a hard Brexit. And
Yes,
if
that's
Mrs
what
May
Nuttall
at
says.
any point goes soft, Nuttall will be there.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the motto. Don't go soft,
Yes.
Nuttall's watching.
We definitely want a hard Brexit. It's got to be hard to be good. Everybody knows that.
This is pornographic.
Any offers of panto this year?
Of course, there are the shockingly high EU immigration figures that have just come out.
Yeah, record EU immigration figures today.
They're all coming over.
Oh, there's probably some in here, Suzanne. Take cover under the desk. Oh, my God. Strange accents and everything.
You see, this is the fundamental misunderstanding about UKIP. We're not anti-immigration at all. We just want to... It's true, it's true.
You see, that's the problem with the message. It hasn't really got across.